Oi, oi, hello and welcome to another GG.CO.UK video. And in this installment, I will be telling you 10 of my top horses from the National Hunt Jump season. Now, it's been pretty difficult just to get down to 10, if I'm honest with you. There's not been too many real standout contenders. There's been a lot of horses that, for varying reasons, which I'll go into, maybe things haven't quite gone to plan and then things have come good, or maybe things have just fallen in their place because of issues that have happened with the horses, etc. But look, they all deserve their place in this top 10 list. They're in no particular order, but I will go through and give my reasoning for each of those. Now, before we crack into the video, I just want to say a big thank you to our YouTube members. They do get access to these videos that typically go out on a Sunday. They get those videos early now. They get early access. Our latest member is Chris Hansey. So thank you to everybody else for their support, and a big thanks to you, Chris Hansey, for yours too. If you're interested in becoming a member for the channel to help, support content such as this, or if you've got any ideas for new content and maybe you do want to get a bit of early access, then you can click the link underneath this video about membership. It gives you all the details in there. And again, we'd appreciate your support if you do that. Nothing is going to be hidden in there, though, as far as I'm concerned. Everything will be accessible for free. You just maybe get the videos a tiny bit later. But with all that said, let's crack on, because it's been a phenomenal jump season. It's definitely been a turbulent one. I don't remember so many ups and downs throughout a season as this. I mean, I've seen them in the past, but typically when it gets through to the spring, things seem to be a little bit more stable. But maybe hasn't been the case this year. So as I say, it's in no particular order. We'll start to whittle through the horses on the list. Now, I'm going to kick straight off with Gary, Gaelic Warrior. He starts a bit of a theme for horses that maybe not only myself, but definitely myself, have been critical of, that have overcome that criticism to prove the standard of horse that they are. Now, look, I don't think anyone's ever thought that Gaelic Warrior was not an exceptionally talented horse, but it had become a little bit frustrating to see him not necessarily living fully up to what we were hoping of him. That said, he got beaten in a Boodles, Fred Winter, short head by Brazil. After that, the only defeat he suffered was at Cheltenham behind Impere Pass. His chase season, the season after, he got beaten once there going into Cheltenham, which is when he unseated behind Factifile. Obviously won at the Cheltenham Festival and then was second at Punchestown by Alette Tomps, who has now gone and proven, like Willie Mullins did with Penhill, first race out in open company, to be a very, very, very good horse. Now, the start of this season, things didn't quite really go to plan. He was beaten favourite twice at Leopardstown, down at 2 mile 1. But as soon as they stepped him up in trip, which did look like something that was always on the cards, he was a favourite for a Stayers hurdle at the beginning of last season, for all that he went novice chasing. Very good under Patrick Mullins at Aintree, and then comes over to Sandown to help Willie Mullins pocket some more money for that trainer's title, which he probably didn't even need in the end. But he's proved that he is a high 160s, pushing 170s horse. And as much as he's been around for ages, he's only 7 turning 8. Gaelic Warrior could end up being, I don't know, could he even be a Gold Cup horse for next season? Well, I mean, you might not have thought it at the start of the year, but I think he's definitely worth mentioning now. Right, another horse that I did poo-poo early in the season was the New Lion, and another horse that I think needs to be mentioned with championship races in mind for next season. He was phenomenal in his hurdle victory at the Cheltenham Festival, when I don't think everything went perfect for him as they turned in. It's important to get first run on some of the horses. It's important to get a good position, but I think Harry really wanted to get the rail. It may have helped him in the finish, but he didn't get first run on the yellow clay. Had to be waiting with a little bit longer. And Final Demand obviously didn't necessarily run up to standard at Cheltenham, but tactically, the way that everything went out, he was very good at Punchestown since, but he still got slammed by the New Lion. And I was very questionable of this horse's ability. Of course, myself, Kate and Andrew, when we did a Cheltenham very early preview at Christmas, we were talking about horses that may be the favourites, that were bad favourites at Cheltenham. He was our lay of the meeting at that stage. Were we wrong? And we're quite happy to hold our hands up that we're wrong, especially when you're a good few months out as well. But look, there's plenty to like about this horse. There's plenty of positives to take, and it's very exciting for British racing to have a novice that's this good. I'd arguably say he's the best novice hurdler we saw throughout the entirety of last season, now that Copec de Board has blemished his copybook. Now, talk about British horses. Haiti Couleurs, for a phenomenal trainer who has taken in a national hunt chase where I couldn't have this horse not being beaten by Transmission, who had finished behind him before. I was completely and utterly wrong. Ben Jones picked up the ride on the day for this, and he must have thought his Christmas had come early there because he got a real good chance in a race. But then there was obviously issues in behind with horses falling, being brought down and stuff. I don't think it made a difference to the result. He would have won anyway. And then he goes and wins an Irish Grand National after, where, in hindsight, you could say maybe the Irish handicapper wasn't as harsh with him or didn't take it as realistically as maybe he should have done, but he still went and battered them. And in both those races, I think if he added a few more pounds to his back, he still would have come out on top. He's one of those early season horses that has just continued to progress and continue to win nice races. Really good to see. And I've got every reason to think that he's going to step into being a very good horse next season too. He's got the attitude and the attributes of what you'd like in a top class racehorse. Speaking of those attributes, Marine National makes it on the list. And again, continuing the theme, another horse that I was quite dismissive of earlier in the season, although I would say I was very complimentary of him on his run, where Dino Blue had a bit of a wind issue. I thought him and her were on the wrong side of the track when Solness won one of the first races, but he stayed on nicely. And I thought, I didn't think that he didn't see out the race there because of a windy issue. But in his race after, I didn't want to forgive him the twice for getting beat by Solness. We can argue whatever we want about how John Bon went in the champion chase at Cheltenham, but the fact is, you jump to win races, and Marine National won the champion chase this year. It's obviously very poignant with the loss of Mikey O'Sullivan. That day with Jazzy Matty and Marine National going in are constant reminders just how emotional and how much this sport can mean to all manner of folk, and they can provide great comfort in times of real difficulties. But it also goes as a reminder of Cheltenham Festival form does stand up. Saw that with Bob Ollinger getting the scalp of Tiapu. Neither of those are in the list, I will just say that. But what's interesting with Marine National is he went to Punchestown, didn't he? He went and won that race, but he wasn't even sent off favourite. He was second favourite behind Factorfile, who was very interesting because Willie Mullins, I would have thought, would have run a Nergamine there. He didn't. He sent him over to Sandown. I thought that was a big positive sign for Factorfile's chance in that race, but it didn't come to fruition. You've got to remember he was favourite for a Gold Cup at some point this year, so he doesn't really get the respect he deserves. Marine National, fair play to him. He's had a fantastic season. I'd like to hope they've turned a corner with him now and he can continue to be that top class of horse for next year, but we'll have to see. It'll be fascinating to see him against LSA Thompson, all those big 2-mile chases, especially early in the season. But fair play to Marine National. He's had a phenomenal season and we love to see it. Next horse that I'm going to put up on the list is Bambino Fever, winner of the bumper. We've had some good horses that have won the bumper in the past that maybe haven't gone on to completely fulfill their potential, but lots of horses have gone on to do good things. We've had a few mares that have won this race as well. I do forget the name of the mare now, so you have to forgive me for that. But the Gordon Elliott mare, who was ridden by Jamie Codd, got left at the start, and then unfortunately she lost her life the following season when she was going hurdling. Now, I would think that Bambino Fever, for all that she's beaten the same horses in the Dublin Racing Festival Grade 2 that she won in February, and then again at Punchestown, she's beaten them with ease. She's won a Cheltenham Festival champion bumper, and you'd hope, being with the master that is Willie Mullins, she's going to be like properly campaign next year. There's a lot of mares, novice hurdlers that maybe we don't get to see as much as we'd like, but she ran a lot, this horse. She smashed up in her point, didn't she? She's had 4 bumpers last season, and you'd hope that they'll run her in the proper big grade 1s that the boys running against too. So I feel like we're going to find out just how good she is, and I'd love to see her mix it in that type of company because I think she's got loads of ability about her. And you can see from the image in here, the face of Jodie Townend to go and get a Cheltenham Festival winner. She's been really good for the sport. She's been really good for Willie Mullins. She's a great jockey. Imagine when her brother's going on this horse next year and riding her to go in those big races. I think she's got every reason to think she could be a phenomenal mare when she goes over obstacles. Like I say, she's a point winner, so the jumping shouldn't be a detriment to her in the slightest. I'm excited to see what this mare can do. And it's been a while since I've been this excited about a bumper mare as well. So good to see that. Next one we'll move on to is another mare. It's Woodoo, who won the Martin Pipe in the style of a horse that could make into a mare's hurdle type next year. Now, she was beaten by Lossy Mouth at Cheltenham after, I think it was the first 3 home that were mares in that race. But Lossy Mouth obviously did win. Lossy Mouth is a phenomenal mare. But Woodoo was mixing it with her when she's coming out of handicaps this season. Now, Gordon Elliott had a rough time at Cheltenham. I mean, rough as we all did, to be fair, but probably rougher than some. This is his first winner of the week. He was very bullish about her in lots of previews, and she's been a very good horse all season. Now, she's another one that I wasn't really given as much respect to going into the Martin Pipers. In hindsight, I should have done, but she's a great mare. She deserves to be on this list. I'm really, really, really excited to see how she's campaigned next season, where they go with her, and what sort of, I guess, future they make her into, because she's a good middle distance horse as well, but there are options to go up and down in trip, depending on which way she might go. And there is potential that she's got, well, there's every reason to think she's got more to come as well, coming out of handicaps going into Open Company next year. So very excited about her. Next up is going to be Nick Rocket, who took the Grand National for Patrick Mullins, for his father, Willie Mullins. It was an emotional day for everybody. I've never seen Willie Mullins like that, I'll be honest with you. I think we're all the same, but it made a big difference to lots of things in the season. It was a poignant victory for the fact that this horse had won a Fiestas, won a Bobby Joe chase, although the Fiestas was definitely a target. The Bobby Joe probably was still, but I still think this was in the back of their minds. There's a phenomenal story to do with the owner of this horse as well, and unfortunately his late wife, but it was just a real emotional victory all round. And it's days like that where in racing I'm really proud to be involved in the sport for how much more it is than just a betting medium. It's just a phenomenal storyline. It gives people lots of reasons to get involved and lots of reasons to get excited. The owner was very talkative on the ITV, probably a little bit too much for their liking in terms of time spans, but was talking about when they went for drinks in like the cheapest hotel, and their wine list was red or white and things like that. Like, it's the stories and the journey that these owners will go through. Now as punters, we can follow horses through the season. We can tip horses, and not everything goes to plan, does it? Not every horse will be a superstar, and not every race we will read correctly. It's part of the journey. Sometimes it's a bit sad on the betting side of things, how if we get things wrong, the side of it goes into a bit negative, and it feels a bit like it's our fault and we've done something wrong, we should have been able to find the winner, etc., etc. But I like the virtual stable side of things, especially when it comes to a Cheltenham Festival. Of, look, we get to pick and choose the horses that we like to have, and then we hope that things go to plan with them. This one very much felt a bit like virtual horse racing. Like, if you could write a story of a horse winning a Grand National, of Patrick Mullins riding his first winner of a Grand National, and for Willie Mullins to go back to back winning the Trainers' Championship and needing to get the winners that he did in this race, like, it's just, he can't write it. It's phenomenal. It's story worthy. And I'm just glad that we got to experience it at the time that we did, like in real time. I feel like this is a Netflix series waiting to happen, the life of Clas Sutton and the Mullinses. But we'll move on. And we will move on to another Willie Mullins in May. It is Lossy Mouth. Here you'll see Woodoo in the background. This is that Aintree race that I was talking about. Now, I thought she was very good in the Hatton's Grace at the start of the season. Backslight defeat was out of the question. I would say conditions were in her favour to beat Teahupoo, but a lot of people played down the performance because they thought Teahupoo underperformed. I didn't, and we saw him win at Punchestown, and he ran a phenomenal race in Cheltenham. Now, when she came over at Christmas, lots of excuses were made for why it wouldn't suit her at Kempton. And I think, to be fair to her, it was just too quick. Good ground, fast track, flat track. I don't think she was out of her comfort zone in terms of the fact that they were saying she was never travelling and things like that as well, but they know more than I do. I thought it was a good run, considering she just looks like she needs a bit further now. Now, of course, in the Dublin Racing Festival, her and Stateman going up the clappers was a great sight to see, until, unfortunately, she tipped up. I'd love to see them two locking it out all the way through to the end. But for her to get redemption at Cheltenham, to come back and win a mare's hurdle again in the fashion that she did, beating Jade de Grugy, who's of course made the form look even better now. I mean, she was well supported for her run just a few days ago when she's beaten Brighter Days Ahead. But, well, beating Brighter Days Ahead, she's beaten Cardinal Marceau in a second, didn't she? But I just mean that the form of what Lossy Mouth did there when she did it in a canter shows you the standard that it is in the 2.5 mile and mares division. Now, from an RPR's perspective, she's been given 156 for the Cheltenham run and at Aintree. That would make her a 163 mare. I think she's being undervalued. I think she's better value for that. And she's only a 6-year-old turning 7. I'm really excited to see how they go with her next year. She's the type of mare, I thought about it this year too, I'd love to see her step up to 3 miles and go for a stairs hurdle. For all that I had question marks about her staying last year, she's fast at 2 miles, but she's just not the fastest. She's phenomenal at 2.5 miles. And I see no reason why she wouldn't get 3 miles now, especially considering it's a division that looks windy enough. So where they go with her is up to them, isn't it? But she's a superstar. We know that already. She is only 6. We've got lots more years to enjoy Lossy Mouth. And then last but not least, I say last but not least, but last but not least of the mares is Golden Ace. Another one in here. I've got an abundance of, haven't I? But you can see in this image, State Man unfortunately had fallen in that champion hurdle. They moved the times of the races, and I don't think it's anything to do with it, but you look at those championship races when you had a couple of final flight fallers in the champion chase, you had it in the champion hurdle as well. Normally that used to be the time that the mares hurdle had run, and we know the last flight fallers in there. Constitution Hill fell in the race as well. Like, it was a real messy spectacle, wasn't it? But Golden Ace did get the job done after having criticism this season. She came out of the novice season last year as a potential mare's hurdle horse or a potential champion hurdler, and then the 2 runs at the middle trip just didn't quite work out for her. But she came back to be a very good winner, a very gritty winner of the Kingwell, dropped back to 1 mile 7 furlongs. I wasn't entirely sure that trip was her best, because why would the trainer keep running at the middle trip? But it did work out to be that way. Good winner of a champion hurdle regardless of what happened in there, and she's sort of backed it up at Punchestown. I know she's been beaten by State Man, but she's backed up the performance. It was a 154 RPR in that champion hurdle, 154 at Punchestown. So while she's not won after winning that champion hurdle, I'm excited to see her into next season, what they do with her, and especially what they do with her in terms of campaigning her over 2 miles at this side of the sea. Fighting Fifth, Christmas hurdle, they should be on the agenda for a horse like her, whereas before, of course, she was starting an Ascot hurdle, then going for a real kill. Maybe they weren't the trip for her, but you know, the trainer knows far better than I do. Yes, she was fortunate, but I don't think that should take away from what she has achieved. You got to be there to go and do this. Jumping is the name of the game. And she was closing in on State Man, for all that I don't think she'd have beaten him, but she was running a big race regardless of what happened in there. And then for the last horse, for the top 10, it is going to be Caldwell Potter, who just came to life in the spring. Another talking point to do with criticism, especially early in the season. We do talk about, it's not all about Cheltenham, but the spring festivals are big target races. You want to mature and progress your horses through a season, and you do want to bring them on year after year. Now, we do expect a lot from trainers, especially the top trainers, and especially for horses that are purchased for a lot of money. But they do know what they're doing, and they do get the best out of horses. It may just take a little bit longer than others. There was comments from Harry Cobden at the start of the season saying maybe he's just not a superstar. But look, his Cheltenham Festival novice handicap victory was very, very, very good. One of the best handicap performances I saw at the festival this year, I think. And then the Aintree performance was really good as well. Like, it wasn't probably the absolute deepest race it could have been. Of course, Key to Bourbon was brought down. Dancing City fell, so we don't know where they would have been. Handstands wasn't running his race. And if you think of the fact that Ben Paulin had another horse that was probably going to be a bigger challenger at this trip that didn't make it to there, you can start to question the form for sure. But let's be honest, at the start of the season, when he won his novice chase at Carlisle and then got slapped up at Cheltenham over 2.5 miles, there's not a single person in my mind that would have believed he was going to win a novice handicap and win at the Aintree Festival. Now, I know people would have bet him. His run at Windsor after was only okay as far as I'm concerned. And yes, his mark of 146 now in hindsight looks like it was light. But on his performances that he put up so far before that, you were taking a small leap of faith. And it was great to see that you can trust the previous champion trainer, Paul Nicholls, to get the best out of a horse, especially over fences. So that wraps up the 10 horses that I've noted as the top 10 horses from the national hunt season. As I say, there could have been bundles of horses more. There's a few that just were made onto sort of the nearly list, but it's some really exciting time to take stamp and stock of what happened the last jump season. And this gives us a line in the sand going into the jump season for next year. Lots of high quality action coming up on the GG Weekend Watch through ITV's summer campaign. We've seen some fantastic racing already this weekend. The 1,000 guineas hasn't gone off as I've recorded this, but we saw a great 2,000 guineas. There's a lot of exciting stuff coming up. So just a reminder that members of the YouTube channel will get early access to videos. Everybody will be able to access all the videos just after. But if you want any details on that, you can click a link under the video, the YouTube video. It's not in the description, but I think it's actually on the button near where the subscribe bit is. Speaking of subscribe, if you can and you want to and you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel. Drop a like on the video if you like it. Let me know in the comments who your best horses of the season were, the ones you agree or disagree with me on this one. That's all completely fine. It is a game of opinions, isn't it? And enjoy your weeks, and thank you for the support.